Right, if we are on the lawns, of course, I take a back seat and give experts a chance to give us what they know, because they are well versed in matters that we try and educate ourselves here every morning on Biashara Tuesday. I hope that Miss Muthoni Njogu, who's joining me over via Zoom here live on Biashara Tuesday, can get me. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I can get you loud and clear. I hope you can as well from your end.
Right, I can. Interesting and lovely, of course, to have you here to discuss, of course, a few issues that are happening. But before we get into that, maybe a little introduction to you. I'm seeing your name is as well the name that bears the Njogu and Associate Advocates that you are managing partner as. Maybe a little bit background in what you do at the firm and, of course, how you are the telecommunications, media and technology expert there.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Richard. My good name is Muthoni Njogu. An advocate, have been practicing for the last 10 years or so. I'm also the managing partner of Njogu and Associate Advocates. This is a corporate commercial law firm, and I think that's where the realm of TMT, or technology, media, and technology gets into place as well. So I'm very happy to be here and really discuss the issues that are affecting business as of today. And thank you so much for having me. Right. And just to add on a little bit in terms of the technology, I think that I appreciate that you have mentioned that as well. One of the areas of interest for me as well is within the blockchain and digital assets as well. So it also sort of expands the technology bit for me as well. Thank you for having me.
Ah, right, interesting. I'll have something small, of course, to have discussed, because there's been a lot of developments recently, especially in the world of cryptocurrency, which is something new that is also making its way into Kenya. I hope we can get some time to, touch a bit on that as well.
Definitely, definitely.
Now, let's start straight, of course, from Safaricom, who are recently awarded a license to set up operations in Ethiopia, which is a country I understand only has one telco operator in that particular country. Now, as Safaricom goes there, of course, having made their name in Kenya as a premier telco operator here, what is this expansion into Ethiopia going to mean for them, first of all, and as well as, of course, for the country, because President Uhuru Kenyatta was there a few weeks ago and oversaw that awarding of the license. What does this mean for Safaricom, first of all, and of course for us as a country, if at all?
All right. Just to kick off, I would say that we need to appreciate we call it a behemoth, or this gigantic organization that is Safaricom, that has grown in leaps and bounds from 2007 to where it is now currently. So what has been the value creation in terms of Safaricom as an organization within even the Kenyan economy? So one would say that there has been a complete contribution towards the GDP of the country. And in terms of value creation, we'll talk about, jobs, value chain opportunities. We'll also talk about, dividends, shareholders, and all that. So we are basically saying all these benefits that have been accruing to the Kenyan economy are now being almost transferred to Ethiopia. Ethiopia, as compared to Kenya, has a population of about 100 and almost double our population.
Right.
And the biggest player within that telecommunications space has been Ethio Telecom. It's a monopoly, basically, our Kenya Power here.
Right.
But of course, now we also appreciate that there are other players within the power supply grid as well. But for this particular country, having the fact that it's been run by a monopoly, I think the foreign investment into this space as well will definitely increase the robust economic strategies that have been put in place by their own government as well. So it means it's a great opportunity for Safaricom to expand what it has done in this country, and of course other countries that Safaricom has been able to get into, our neighboring countries, Tanzania, Uganda, just to name a few. So that opportunity and those opportunities that are able to be milled from here and East Africa will also be taken as well to Ethiopia.
Right. Now, are we getting... pardon, there's, sorry for that bit of feedback that you're receiving there. Now, is there something that we're getting back as a country, as of course, putting into consideration the fact that the government owns a lot of if not majority of the shares there at the telco, is there a kickback of profits or dividends to Kenyans and the shareholders who are Kenyans, of course?
Most definitely. At the end of it all, Safaricom being a public limited company, it still has its, shareholders within its purview. So definitely that will also translate to the shareholders. And as well, I think even the bigger picture here for Safaricom is even not just the communications license that they have been granted. The near future, we are looking at mobile money license. I think when you look at the Safaricom annual reports, we always seen that M-Pesa has always spoken out over and above other products in the greater Safaricom, like voice. So we are hoping that, given the fact that the mobile money license, if we do hope that it is issued in the coming years to come, yes, we think that will be the biggest plus. We have definitely seen the impact of M-Pesa, the greater good like financial inclusion and etc. So we do hope that that is the way as well, that hopefully in the coming years that also be granted a mobile money license as well.
Right. So, Ms. Muthoni, if I might use quite a far-fetched analogy, when we speak of matters China coming into Africa, there's always concerns in that they never really give conditions as compared to other key players into this economy of ours. They don't give much concern in terms of how the political environment is now. As Safaricom goes into Ethiopia in a time where we can say there's considerable elevated political tension in that region as a result of elections that have happened there, shouldn't it concern the country as well as even Safaricom and its shareholders?
Okay, when we look back at the consortium, even as it was getting its funding, there were concerns that even the organization that is even granting Safaricom or the bigger consortium, because I think it contains about 3 players, there was concern about the political tension as well, and the fact that the financier to this particular activity had blacklisted, almost like blacklisted Ethiopia for this particular purpose. But then again, you look at exemptions. I think they were granted exemptions as well. Like, even if there's that fear, what are the benefits vis-a-vis the risks that are going to accrue to? So I would think, in my opinion, it's the benefits are outweighing the risks, and the fact that it's a good opportunity, not only just for the shareholders, but for the organization as a large, which of course will trickle down to to the shareholders of this particular organization, those who own a piece of pie in Safaricom. Right. So I think the benefits will definitely outweigh the risk.
Okay, we of course wait to see what the developments are looking like there for Safaricom. Now, back home here, about a week or so ago, Kenyans woke up one morning and found themselves registered in various political parties all across the country. And once that issue was raised with the ORPP, that is the Registrar of Political Parties, Kenyans were told to make sure they apply. There is apparently a way or a process that someone has to follow to get deregistered from a political party. Now, first of all, what are the legal limits within which my details can be used without my knowledge in the country? Of course, as this has happened, most of these Kenyans' personal information, including their identification cards, of course, their voters' registration details, all were accessed by various political parties. Now, what happens in this scenario, and what are these developments looking like for us Kenyans?
All right. There's always been, I think, a misconception because we always sometimes want to hit at the wrong tree or back at the wrong tree. So it's very critical, first of all, to understand who are the key players within the data protection ecosystem. When we look at this information, of course, it's erroneous. I'm being told I'm in a party that I probably have never registered for. So the key recipient of this information was the political parties themselves. However much back in the far years that information may have been collected. And then that will be the person that we're going to call the data controller, the person who receives the information, who determines the purpose of the information. And then the player number 2 is the data controller, the data processor. So the data processor in the ecosystem is the person now who gets to, utilize the information on behalf of the data processor. The data processor here is the is the political party. And then we have the processor, which is the office of the registrar of political parties.
Right.
Then you as the data subject, you are the data, the IDs and all those nice information about you has been collected. Of course, now when you look at that photo without your consent, then we get to have office of the data commissioner who is supposed now to levy penalties or fines for the processor and the controller who have used your information in the wrong way. So there's also a connection whereby the office of the political parties has made that connection with your data on e-citizen. So there have been a marriage of data sets. You know, from your e-citizen, that's where you have given a lot of information about yourself because you need to access government services. Then that marrying of the same with the political parties sort of has, you know, like harvesting of data, I would call it that.
Yeah.
There's data harvesting that has been undertaken. So in that grand scheme of things, we'll definitely say that Kenyans have a right to, you know, the hula baloo that has been there, because consent is a very key component within the data protection ecosystem. It's very key. So what we call now the answers to the questions would be, what will the Data Protection Commission office do to levy that penalty? So this is something that is ongoing. I do believe there was a letter written to that effect, but it's ongoing and it's wrong and it's erroneous. Your consent must always be obtained. I think you have seen a lot of that, even just you get into a shop and they start using your data. Just because I've fueled my car does not necessarily mean now you can invite me for the next offer and the next offer. I was just using M-Pesa.
Which is also something that was developing some time back with Kenyans saying that we always receive promotional messages even from betting sites or other services that we are not even subscribed to.
Yes, true. That has those are people who are harvesting your data for the wrong reason. And you see, they're supposed to get information for a specific purpose. The purpose was just to make a payment. But once when you go over and above a payment, I'm sending me Valentine dinners, you know, invitations. I don't know, they're having, I don't know, everyday invitations.
An offer.
That is illegal. And I'm hoping that and offers. So I'm hoping that the regulations towards the Data Protection Act are going to come into force, so that at least we can see enforcement of the same. So that is work in progress, and very soon we're going to be seeing the development out of that.
Right. Now, as we try and make sure that we're also keeping time, something interesting that has been happening, of course, is how the media has been changing over the years. Of course, this is something that you're focused on, and it's something that I do as a job. Yeah. So now with developments in digital technology, of course, reporting and regulation of freedom of speech as well has moved from, you know, traditional media to the social space. Now anyone with a phone can report about anything, and you know, previously there was that accountability. If you're working in a media house, there are laws that apply to you in terms of how you operate, what you say. Of course, that is also borderline, thinking about at what point exactly does the freedom of media and you know, the law intersect. But now with the changing environment, how do you feel the effects are going to look like for us? When you go online, anyone can spread any piece of information with just a few seconds and a couple of retweets, and it will be fake news, as it has now come to be known as, because there's no form of verification of their sources of information. So what happens in such an environment of, I would say, huge confusion in how the media has come to be?
Richard, if you're not careful, you'll be out of a job very soon. Because as you say, everyone with a phone can actually just, you know, tweet information.
Yes.
And disseminate it. And unfortunately, I think we're in a, like I always say, the KUTV army.
Yeah.
You know, everything will spread so fast, you will not even believe it that it was a lie.
Right.
So I would say that the media has always been regulated by a code of conduct and ethics of how they were supposed to do their journaling and reporting. Now, when we have the phones and they sort of a democratization of information, like you are at liberty to disseminate anything, they are still, the laws have not gone away. Let me give a very good example. I want to talk about revenge porn. Revenge porn is basically where somebody, like what we saw the recent Mufisa Kitui issue. This is a public figure with a reputation booked, and information has been disseminated that portrays this person in another light. But the thing is, this is something that was in a relationship between two people, which has now been made public. We, the public, are the third parties in this particular instance. It is wrong. One, this individual has been defamed. If in true, there were also contents that it may or may not be true, it is photoshopped, but I'm not an expert to know whether it was or it wasn't. So the rights to this individual from a legal perspective have not gone away. So they do have a right to privacy. They do have a right to be protected in terms of their dignity, in terms of their reputation, and all that. So there are various laws that actually do apply until today. So we would not say that it's just because you have a phone, you are under the laws of the jungle. That does not apply. So we have things like the misuse of computers and I think cyberbullying as well. That is within our Kenyan legal perspective. The Supreme Court of this land entitles you to the right to privacy, to have your reputation intact. There are various laws that actually cover this particular area. So even as somebody does that, it needs to be at the back of their mind that they are going against the law, and the long arm of the law will definitely catch up with them.
Right. Right. I hope that is what will happen, and I hope I don't go out of a job anytime soon as a result of.
We hope so as well. We hope so as well.
Right. We will adapt with how the environment goes. Now, maybe lastly, as we close up, there's been developments which are really interesting. That is coming from the Capital Markets Authority and Saiton Investments. It's beyond my understanding how CMA, it never occurred to CMA that Saiton was misleading the public in terms of how their investment was looking like. But maybe, from your legal view, and of course, a point which I think you're more informed than, maybe myself, what exactly happened with Saiton Investment and CMA? How could they operate in such an unregulated manner without any red flag being raised?
Just to give a little bit of history, I think CMA and Saiton have had, a friction-based sort of relationship. I think commencing, in the year 2020, early on 2020, and that's when the firm started going to, to the courts of law to just try and get some form of protection. What we have is that the Capital Markets Authority has regulated about six products of Saiton. So the difference is that within these regulated products, then there was a bit of unregulated products. I think that is what we were calling the Saiton high yield solution.
Right.
But if you look at it and also look at, there's a Saiton high yield solution fund. There's a fund as opposed to the solution.
Which is regulated.
Fund is regulated. Yes, which is regulated, and then we have the solutions, which is not regulated. The whole essence at that particular point in time, even based on their litigious journey, was the fact that the fund was using money that was supposed to be, for certain projects and channeling it elsewhere. According to the regulations, there is a cap of how much you're supposed to do that. So I think in a way, sort of, to circumvent a bit of the regulations, that's why we have now the solutions, and where there's a huge uproar from the investors as to why, when the money gets to a certain point of maturity, then they will not do that. So I think that's where the CMA was having an opinion that for us, this is a regulated. If sort of you go and invest in something that is not regulated, this is where you're always told, and I always say it's akin to park your car at your own risk. You always told, you're going there, you know very well that you're not supposed to park, or if you do, please do not hold us liable. So I'm not coming in the defense of CMA or Saiton or, going against the investors. But as with, and let me say now, just give an example, as with cryptocurrencies or backed currencies, the regulations say, please do not hold us accountable. If you do want to proceed and go ahead and invest, well, unfortunately, you will not be covered under the realm of the law. That's the unfortunate bit about it.
Right.
So it's not that CMA was was having a blind eye. But I think this conversation actually emanated as early as last year, and it actually warned investors, this is not a regulated fund. If you do that, please just know that you are on your own.
Right, as it is with any other investment, really, if you're investing at your own risk.
Yes, it is. And if you, unfortunately, you do not undertake your diligence, because the authority has come out authoritatively and said, we do not regulate this. We do not regulate this. So I think it's a question of just doing your own due diligence on the sort of investment products or vehicles that you want to get into, as opposed to always come back and say, the regulator has done nothing. Actually, if you look back at it, the regulator has actually done a lot in terms of informing investors.
Right.
This was not part of the regulated product. It is not.
Right. That is Ms. Muthoni Njogu, who is managing partner at Njogu and associate advocate and is the head of telecommunications, media and technology. I'm really glad that we could be able to have these conversations that we have had in the few minutes that we were allocated. However, there is so much more that I would have loved to engage you on, but this show has so many other items that are also running. But I'm hoping that maybe in the future I can still have you back here and in person.
Definitely. I will definitely come in person and try and see whether we can beat this cold. It's a bit too much.
Right, yes.
Hope you have a hot cup of coffee.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that invitation for a cup of coffee.
All right, thank you and have a good day.
Have a good day too.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much for joining us on that conversation with Ms. Muthoni Njogu, who was helping us understand various issues. Of course, she's an advocate, and that is at Njogu and associate advocates. She's the head of telecommunications, media and technology, which means matters of technology, business and media. She's really well versed in. She touched on various discussions across ranging from Ethiopia's license issue to Safaricom, as well as, what is happening with site on investment, which is a conversation we closed with, and you guys who got themselves registered across various political parties in the country. And because of that, I am interested to know which political party you found yourself registered in last week. And if you are majority, let me give you a secret. If you are a majority of youth who have been chosen randomly to go into a political party, go in there, select one of your own to be the leader of the political party and take over this country, right? That is a bit of information, but I'm interested to see what those are. So continue sending me that feedback across social media at Richard_Kenye and on the SMS/WhatsApp numbers that are here on the screen. There's so much more coming up ahead. Identify the brand, which has become quite popular. Some people told me they're awake with their pens and papers to play the brands today, as well as conversations that we are having here next. Still, we have a launch that is coming up, as well as the technology segment, which is Tech Voice. So don't go too far. The show is still young. My name is Richard Okenye, and welcome.